Hello, this is Ace's go home video. He didn't quite do a full 2-week board and train with us, but he was with us for about a week and a half. So this is what his typical training session would look like. So since he's young, I try to keep it, fast paced, include toys and a lot of treats and a lot of praise and a lot of fun stuff, making obedience fun. So this is his climb command. It's essentially go to your bed and stay there until I tell you can come off. And the way that you'll let him know that he can come off of his bed is by saying free. So I always reward on the place bed so that the direct positive association is with the bed, not necessarily with me, and so that he doesn't feel like he has to meet me halfway for that treat by stepping off the bed. This is a down. He's mostly verbal with the down, but sometimes I include a hand cue to help him out a little bit visually. We started adding some distance and duration to the down, so I'll take a couple steps back, then return and treat him, maybe take a couple steps back again, return and treat him. Change it up a lot so that not every time you treat him, you free him, so that he doesn't start expecting that the treat means that he can get up. So a heel position is essentially his shoulder in line with your knee, and you can lure him into that position by kind of doing a little circle by your side with a piece of food in your hand to lure him around to that position, and treating him right up by your leg. So treat him where you want him. Don't treat him out in front of you, or else he will anticipate being in front of you. And you can get him to sit. You can get him to down right next to you. This will be great on walks, or if you do start doing any type of sport with him. So you can lure him into a sit, or lure him into a down, lure him back up into a sit. Or you could say it verbally. I just like to lure for as long as possible to keep the movements nice and clean. And if you start dropping the lure too quickly, his sits and downs can become a little sloppy or slow, whereas he'll be very quick to follow that piece of food. So when I toss out a piece of food, I call it a reset cookie. So it basically just kind of gets them away from us, and then they come back and we can repeat that command. Because if we say down and then we free them, they're just standing right in front of us. So it's not really, logical. So I like to toss a reset cookie so that they come running towards us, and then we can ask them for a down or a sit or whatever we're working on. So working on a heel position while walking, you'll keep a piece of food right in front of his nose. And whenever I stop, I would expect him to sit. So in order to do that, I raise the cookie just a little bit further up, and his butt goes down and he gets that treat once his butt hits the ground. Sometimes I will give them a second cue if they're really struggling, and you'll see I had to take a step towards the place bed or the climb bed. Then he got what I was asking him to do and completed that command. This time I asked him again. I guess I'm at a little bit too far of a distance and he doesn't understand. So I just wait him out while still pointing at the bed. I'm looking at the bed, and he says, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll go over to the bed." And then I say, "Yes, good job, good climb," and I treat him on that bed. Sometimes just waiting them out when you know that they can do it, they'll show you that they can do it and that you don't need to repeat yourself. So with the climb command, if he does end up stepping a foot off of the bed, so like there, I will say no as soon as his foot touches the ground, and hopefully he'll fix himself. But if not, I will take him back to that place bed and keep him there, either with his collar or using my body language. So he likes to offer a down because he gets rewarded for it generally when we ask for it. But when I ask for a sit, I don't want him to be lazy and go into a down. So you'll see what I did is I just stepped towards him a little bit, or put a foot right between his front legs, and that urged him to go back into a sit so that I could reward him for that sit. Here I'm adding a distraction of a toy dropping. That first time he didn't see it, which is fine. I still rewarded him for not reacting towards it. So this time he did see it, and he really loves this toy. But I used my body to block him from going to get that toy. And then when they fail something, I will always try it one more time to see if they've learned from that past mistake. So here he did, and his reward is a free, and that he gets to play with that toy that he just ignored.
Go get it, mister. You get it. You kill it. You kill it. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Yeah, you got it. Good job. Good job, Ruby. He's a good boy. Yeah, you kill it. You kill that guy. You get that guy. You get that guy. Good boy.
Here's that heel position again, luring him into a sit. Well, I tried. He did sit. He didn't sit right where I wanted him to, so we reset. I lure him into a heel, and then I ask him to sit, and he does. I ask him to down, and he does. So he gets a cookie. Then I add just a little bit of distance to that down. Super short amount of distance, maybe a foot or two, just because he's a puppy. And he's got a little ADHD puppy brain, which is just fine. So we go slowly. We take baby steps to increasing that duration, that distance, and those distractions. And I make sure to feed him in a down right between his front paws, either putting the food on the ground or feeding him right there so that he doesn't feel like he needs to sit up or come towards me to get that piece of food. I will bring it to him every single time, and I want him to know that. Here's his kennel command. I used a plastic crate for potty training purposes, but I know that you guys have a wire crate. It should transfer just fine. I say kennel, I point to his kennel, he goes in, I give him cookies on the kennel floor. Again, for the same reason as the place bed, is we want the association to be with the kennel, not necessarily with me. We want the kennel to be a fun place. Well, not necessarily fun, but rewarding, if that makes sense. So sometimes when we're doing kennel training, I'll close him in. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes he will turn around and he has to wait for me to say free in order for him to come back out. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of distance with the door open and make sure that he can stay in there. But whenever he waits to come out during training time, or if I have time, you know, when I'm doing a let out for him for a potty break, I will ask him non-verbally to wait. By if he steps out, I'll shut the door on him. And then he figures it out pretty quickly that he has to stay in there until I say the word free and he can come out. So I like to treat him for waiting patiently. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just kind of playing around with him. I'm seeing if he can differentiate the word kennel from the word climb. So I'm seeing if he can understand what command I'm giving him. Because it's essentially the exact same hand gesture. They're very similar commands because technically if I ask him to go to his kennel, he needs to wait for me to say free before he can come out. But the place command with the place bed just gives him a little bit more freedom. So he can still turn around, he can walk around on there, he can scratch, he can do whatever as long as he's on that place bed. So here I make it easier on him and I kind of step in front of the kennel so that he understands which command I'm giving him. And play around with walking away from him, facing him, walking away from him, turning your back to him, walking around, picking things up, just adding little bits of distraction here and there. And that will help him learn that no matter what I'm doing in the kitchen or, you know, in the dining room or the living room, wherever you're placed, stay on that place bed no matter what I'm doing. And I did work with him with another dog on a place bed too, in the same room. So he was supposed to ignore that dog and work with me and do a place command with me, and he did. He's very food motivated, which is very helpful for those types of scenarios. I just used his meals as training treats for him, so he doesn't even really need treats. You feed him really good food anyway. He's happy to get that food as a reward. So I never really fed him in a bowl. Sometimes I would if, I was in a rush in the morning or something. But typically I used his food as his training rewards. So he's working for his food, and he loves to do so.
No. Thank you.
So I never asked them to sit or down on the place bed, but if they do give me calm body language on the place bed, I'll reward them more heavily for that. So you can see that he has picked up on that when he lays down, he gets more food. But I've never asked him to lay down on that place bed. When I tell him to place, that's all he needs to do. He doesn't have to lay down. He doesn't need to sit or do anything specific on that place bed. And then at the end of the session, I like to give him the rest of his food, or a big pile of treats, or a lot of praise and pets or play, especially with other dogs. Thank you so much for bringing him to train with me. I know he's going to do great things in the future. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out.